What I find as well is that a lot of my friends and people who are my cousins and family who are born in this country don't really have that connection with their Indian heritage. And do you
Mm.
think that because you're finding yoga and you're falling in love with it and its roots, that you're falling in love with your Indian roots as well and your heritage?
Yeah, I think, yeah, I totally, yeah, agree with sort of the way India is. And in terms of my roots, I think being born here,
Mm.
I've been thinking about this a lot recently, actually. Like, sort of, you're British, and then you've got that Indian side, and all of my mum's family is still in India, so we've been back like a lot, like most years. But as soon as you step off that plane, they know that you're not from India.
Yeah.
But then when we're in England, like, even though we were born here, we're not British because of our skin color. We're not seen as British. So it's like, where do you belong, almost? And I
Mm.
think the beauty, I suppose, of like the people that have been born in India is that they're surrounded by people who look like them, so they have this sort of like confidence within them, or this sense of identity that I think
Yeah.
sometimes we as British born Indians sort of lack.
Yeah.
And I know I've spent a lot of time, as I've grown up, sort of rejecting my Indian culture. Then when I went to uni, definitely coming back to it.
Yeah.
Like, I joined Hindu society, which is something that, if you told me I'd do that at 16, I would be like, no way am I ever going to do that.
Yeah.
And then I was on the committee and all, all these things that I never thought that I would do. But, I started to again, like, fall in love with my own culture.
Yeah.
And then again, going to do yoga, seeing all these people, like, I was the only Indian person there doing the training, and seeing all these other people who were so in love with, like, my ancestors, like, the things that they would have created and what have you. It was just, yeah, fascinating that how much, I suppose, like, we tend to reject it and think, oh no, everything in the West is better, or this way of thinking. um but now, yeah, like, I'm definitely coming back to it even further, like now studying the Gita, for example,
Mm.
again, something that I never even considered doing even a year ago.
Mm.
Whereas now, like, it's my most favorite part of my week is my Sunday morning class, to sit down and go through it with the teacher. So yeah, I think it comes to you at the right time. Like,
Mm.
the guru will show at the right time, the teaching, whatever that teaching may be that you're there to learn, it will come to you when you're ready, when you're seeking it, which is definitely what I found has happened for me.
No, definitely. And I think it's India's just there's so much. I think it's so dependent on your personality. Like, for example, I've always been more philosophical. So the philosophies of India completely make me fall in love with the country, whereas my sister will be more free-spirited. So that nature of India will make her fall in love with it. And the country is so multi-dimensional that it
Mm,
really does suit you. And one thing that I loved when I was living there was looking around and seeing everybody looks like you. Yeah, and they definitely
mm,
don't sound like me because we speak completely different versions of even the same language as English. Like, their English and our English is completely different, but they look like me, and I feel like they understand me in that context. Whereas in this country, you have to kind of explain yourself a little bit more, and I think that's all minorities feel that while they're in another country where we're not fully understood, where we have to explain a little bit more of who we are, and we do kind of reject the. Even I did that. I was never really proud to be Indian, apart from when I was watching cricket. But right, and then but after that, like, it's a real transition to now I'm completely in love with the country and in love with the ideas behind it. And yoga and meditation seem so fundamental to me now that I can't even think a life without it. And I'm sure that's for you now as well. Like, you probably can't even imagine your life without yoga being at the heart of it.
yeah, exactly, definitely. I think, yeah, it's funny, really, isn't it? Like, your parents when you're younger are like, you need to do this, and
Yeah.
like, you should be proud to be Indian, and you're like, oh my god, no, like, I don't think so. And then, yeah, like, yeah, it sort of comes full circle, dependent, yeah, on the person. Like, naturally, you suppose you can't force these things.
Yeah, I also think that's an interesting point about our parents' generation, because I don't think my parents' generation were as curious or were trained to be as curious as us. They kind of
Yeah.
had to kind of just believe in whatever their parents told us for many different reasons. And that's completely fair on their generation. But because we're so
Mm,
inquisitive, I think it's a benefit because we
yeah.
can really ask the questions. And then when you're asking it and you're getting the answer, now it becomes your truth instead of somebody else's truth. And I think
Mm,
that especially in the spiritual path, that's an essential quality to have to ask questions and not just accept.
yeah, absolutely. And I think, I think a lot of our parents would have been first or maybe second generation immigrants. They didn't have that privilege to ask the questions. They just had to do,
Mm. Yep.
almost do what their parents said, given the generation and what have you. Whereas for us, we are more privileged because, like my parents didn't go to uni, whereas I got that chance to go to university, to explore, to, leave my job and start my own business. Like they would never have had that sort of opportunity or that privilege. So I think, yeah, like we've got to use it in the best way, I suppose.
100%. 100%.